What's up guys, it's Steven from Cymatics here and welcome to day 3 of the beat making challenge. I'm really excited about how day 1 and 2 turned out because, the stuff we were talking about was pretty simple, but it's building a foundation for what's to come because honestly, when it comes to making hip hop beats, there's nothing magical or nothing crazy like secret formula to doing it. A lot of it is just doing the basics really, really well. Like you guys have probably seen different people use crazy techniques in the studio, but you've been listening to those reference tracks and as you can start to imagine, a lot of the stuff that makes those songs amazing is pretty simple. And I wanted to really hammer that in throughout the entire challenge. So now that you've been studying your reference tracks, now that you know how to get the key of your melody loop, which is really going to help in the 808 training, especially when you start to add the 808s and we start to do a lot of stuff with that, now it's time to take that melody loop and add some basic drums to it. We're not going to be doing anything too crazy, but we are going to go over the basic things that you really need to add to the melody loop, and as well as a couple different variations of stuff you can do. This may seem like pretty basic information, but like I said, later in this challenge, we're going to be adding layers to it and layers to it, and in general, hip-hop beats are really not that complicated. It's all about adding the right elements and little micro details to make sure those simple elements all come together. And then if you do that correctly, your beats can sound so amazing. We've all heard those newer producers who try to add way too much stuff into their beat. It ends up sounding crazy and the listener can't even focus on any elements or appreciate the song because there's so much stuff going on. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy today's video. The training that's going to come up after this, we're going to go over essential hi-hat training, which will help you spice up your hi-hats a lot and add a lot of variation to it. We're going to go over 808 and kick training. We're going to go over song arrangement, not to mention those basic melody loops. We're going to teach you how to take those into completely different places. So even if you're starting with a melody loop you find, let's say out of one of our packs, you can actually turn it into dozens and dozens of new melodies and really interesting things to make your beat stand out and to be unique. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy today's training video. Peace out.
Hey guys, this is Nick with Cymatics.fm. Welcome to day number 3 of our 7-day beat making challenge. And today I'm going to teach you guys how to write your own drums underneath a melody loop that you threw into your project. It's a very important part of the production process, obviously, but it might be a pretty daunting task for anybody new. So I'm going to try and break it down into a very simple workflow for you to follow so that anybody can make a set of reasonable sounding drums for their hip-hop song that'll sound as good as any professional song. That'll involve sprucing things up and making them more flashy and fancy, but that's going to be the next video after this, talking about the hi-hats. But right now we're just going to make everything very basic and follow a very simple set of rules. But before we get started actually writing the drums themselves, I want you guys to do a very important thing, which is to make sure that the melody you're using is in time with the project tempo. In this particular melody, it says it's 140 BPM, 140 beats per minute. So we just need to adjust the tempo of the project to match that. If it was 150, we would put the project as 150. Now, to make sure that everything is actually in time, just use the metronome, turn that on. Any DAW in the world has a metronome, and just play the melody together with the metronome. Okay, so that's completely in time. Notice that if I increase the tempo, it'll sound out of time, but I'll only hear it if I have the metronome on. So the metronome is way too quick. Let's set that back. Alright, so now that we have that set, we can loop it over and over. It's always going to stay in time. The first thing I'm going to add in terms of drums will be the hi-hats, and I generally recommend you guys do that as well. It's a lot easier to do the rest of the drums because the hi-hats tend to be the fastest, and everything that's slower will kind of slot in underneath the hi-hats very easily. And the easiest way to do this generally for a trap or a hip-hop song is just set your grid in your MIDI clip, and I am using MIDI samplers for all of these instruments individually. So a hi-hat sample will be triggered by MIDI notes, a snare sample will be triggered as well, and so on for each sample. I'll explain to you the real motivation behind that in a second, but that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to be using audio clips because I can actually, with MIDI, I can change the sample later if I want, which means that I don't have to spend as much time looking for the right sample. I can just write the pattern with any sample I find. I'm not going to spend more than 1 minute looking for a sample and then just change it later if it doesn't suit the song. That makes it really easy with MIDI. So the first thing we're going to be doing is making our grid 1/8 divisions, okay? 1/8 division. This will apply to any DAW, provided we're in the time signature of 4/4. Higher tempos like 140, 150, 160, 130. These are tempos where we can just set the hi-hat to the hi-hat MIDI clip to 1/8 and just put it on any note you want and just duplicate it over and over across each column. And if we listen to that, it'll start to sound like an actual hip-hop hi-hat part. For now, that sounds pretty simple, but that's okay because in the next video, we're going to learn how to spruce it up, make it sound more interesting. In fact, the hi-hat is a very important part of what makes hip-hop songs sound interesting. But we're just going to lay the groundwork here. So that is a pretty solid groundwork in terms of just the hi-hat. And again, we can always, and I really do suggest you do this, especially if you're just starting out, always engage your metronome and reference that with anything you add to make sure that it's in time. And the reason I said the hi-hat is a good place to start is that you don't really need the metronome anymore because you've created the hi-hat and it's in time already. So this will be our new metronome basically. The hi-hat will be the new metronome for the rest of the song. That's why it's really important, just both for the song and for the creation process. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, provided that we've written our hi-hat, is to add a snare. Snare is fairly easy to add. All I really want you guys to remember, this is just going to be, it's going to be intuitive to you later on, but in the beginning, just remember that the snare goes on the third beat of the bar. So if we can count this bar at 140 BPM, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And the snare will be going on the 3, and that's going to apply to basically any hip hop song ever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So whenever you count the 3 in your head or out loud, just stop the playhead, press the space bar, and that's roughly where the snare is going to be. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. So our snare is going to be here. Let's see if we're right. We don't need the metronome anymore. I just wanted to show you, demonstrate counting out the bar. And you should do that out loud. So that sounds good. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should go here. 2. And from here, you can start to experiment with adding some offbeat snares. And this is the other advantage of MIDI, is I can play with the pitches, but we're going to keep everything the same note. All right. And finally, we'll add the kick. And the kick, importantly, generally speaking, you're going to find the kick on the first beat of the bar. So on the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. We're going to open up our kick MIDI. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll be a fairly reliable start. So it'll go usually on the first beat of the first bar and on the second beat of the second bar. So 1, 1, 2, 2. You can kind of remember it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the second bar begins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll put it here. If we can also stop the playhead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And let's listen to that. Yep, there we go. And again, we can experiment with variations here. Just following those simple rules, we've managed to come up with already a fairly convincing hip-hop drum track. I hope you guys learned something about how to count in 4, how to arrange everything, and make sure also everything that's in time and in sync with your project. And you're never going to have problems with things being out of sync, and you're going to have a reasonably good starting point for your drums. In the next video, we're going to be talking about how to spruce up your hi-hats, because that's going to add a lot more personality to your track. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure if you haven't watched day 1 and 2 yet, you go back and you watch those videos, because like I said, we're going to keep building and building and building upon this so we can really build up your skills when it comes to making beats, and things that we talked about in the first 2 videos are just as important as skills you need for us to move forward. And one other thing, we actually have something coming up. It's a secret project. We're going to be announcing it next week. Depending on when you're watching this video, it may already be out. We have a secret project coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.